It is now my singular honor and pleasure to release the 2024 primary living examination results for the public use. I thank you all. As once again, here we are. 2024 PLE results. God bless you all and God bless Uganda.
Registration of the candidates. A total of 797,444 candidates from 14,883 centers registered for this examination, compared to 749,347 in 2023. Mama, of these, 524,025, or 65.7%, from 11,451 centers were beneficiaries of the government's universal education program. While 34.3% of the candidates were non-UPE. Mama, Table 1 gives the details of the candidature and the centers, and we've run this for the last 5 years. We note that, as I've already said, the numbers and the number of centers, and we can also see the increase from 2019. 2022 is an outlier year because, Mama, we had the issue, the problems of COVID, and so there was that COVID bulge, which eventually was absorbed, and from 2023, the number of registered candidates started getting normal to what we have been expecting. The table indicates that we have had an increase of 48,190, or 6.4% over the previous year. Mama, this is also higher than the expected increase rates of about 3 to 3.5%. In 2024, analysis by gender shows that 378,709, or 47.5% of the candidates were boys, compared to 418,750, or 52.5% being girls, indicating, Mama, that more girls than boys completed the primary education cycle. This has been a trend in the recent years. Last year, the percentage was 52.3 for girls against 47.7. Registration of special groups. The board registered 3,328 learners with special needs of various categories, including the blind, the deaf, the physically handicapped, and the dyslexics. And this compares to 2,652 in 2023, indicating an increase of 25.5%. Mama, the number of SNE candidates continues to increase annually due to the awareness that the chairperson of the board has mentioned, that has now been created in the schools by the board and the ministry's deliberate efforts. Of these that were registered, the female candidates were 47.9%. The other group we are regarding as special groups are the prison inmates. The board registered 71 candidates from the Uganda government upper prison in Luzira. 70 of these were males and 1 female. And from Mbarara, we had 37 candidates, all of them males. It is worth noting that the prison service is extending the opportunity for inmates to acquire education as they serve time. For some time, Mama, it was only Luzira prisons providing this service, but other branches are now coming on board. And as the chairperson has mentioned in his remarks, the board will make it easy for the prison service to continue to have more examination centers. Overall numbers of candidates registered and those that took the examination is given in table number 2, again from 2019 coming to 2024 over a period of 5 years. What we observe from there is the fact that absenteeism has decreased. Last year, 2023, there were 12,323 or 1.6%. This time round, this number has dropped to 10,463 or 1.3. So from that table, Mama, we note that there is a general decrease in absenteeism annually, except 2022, which I have said is an outlier year because of the impact of COVID. So we are happy to note that more of the children who are entering school are staying on until they do the end of cycle examination. Honorable Minister, allow me now to comment on the performance of the candidates. An item response analysis was done on the scores of the candidates in each of the 4 subjects. The overall results show the percentages of candidates that exhibited high ability levels, medium ability levels, and low ability levels in the mastery of the subject knowledge and skills. We have table 3 that indicates that 17.4% of our candidates in mathematics were in the high ability level, 17.0 in English, and 14.3 in integrated science, and 14.7 in social studies with religious education, religious studies. Other ability levels are indicated under the various subjects. Just a little explanation of those ability levels, very brief, simple, is that the low ability levels of candidates are these candidates who are able to remember and recall facts, and they show some limited level of understanding of those facts. The medium ability candidates remember and recall those facts. They show an understanding of these facts and can apply some of these concepts in solving in a problem-solving situation. However, they have difficulties in applying these facts in new situations. The high ability candidates will remember the facts, they will recall, they will show understanding. In other words, they will do all that the 2 levels do, and on top of that, they are able to apply these facts or concepts in problem-solving situations and also applying these facts in completely new situations. So the table indicates that the high ability level candidates are slightly less than 20% is already indicated, and the other percentages have also been indicated. The overall performance by grades, that is a distinction, credit, and pass. The performance of the candidates in the 4 subjects is compared over the 2-year period, 2024 and 2023, in table 4. This performance is indicated at distinction 2 and above level, credit 6 and above level, and the minimum pass 8 and above level. The table indicates the subjects, the total number of candidates appearing for each subject. You will realize that the numbers are not the same, and this is normal because not all the candidates who sat mathematics on the first day sat the other subjects. So you would find various numbers of candidates being absent for a particular subject for some reason. So the numbers are not the same. We note from this table, Mama, that there is the table indicates that overall, at grade 8 and above, candidates performed better in social studies and religious education, integrated science, and mathematics. However, there was an overall drop in performance in English compared to 2023. It should also be noted from the table that, the distinction scores have dropped in all the subjects. And this reflects on the difficulties that the candidates had with questions requiring higher ability levels. The higher ability level achievers are the ones that will score distinction. So when that table is analyzed, whereas the cumulative percentages at 6 and 8 appear better than 2023, we'll note that at English, this year 2024, 4.9% of our candidates obtained a distinction 2 and above, compared to 7.8 in 2023. In social studies and religious education, we have 7.9% this year compared to 9.4% of the previous year. Similarly, integrated science with 6.4% this year compared to 9.3% in 2023. And mathematics is where we have seen some much better performance of 7.4 compared to 5.3. Overall performance by aggregate, the highest aggregate is 4, where a candidate has managed to get a distinction 1 in all the 4 subjects, and the lowest is aggregate 36, where the candidate has scored 9 in all the 4 subjects. And the figure shows the spread of the aggregates from 4 to the left, going towards 36 to the right. So there is a skew to the left, showing that the majority of our candidates are scoring in the range of 11 and 30. When you look at that frequency distribution, the aggregate 4s that are so cherished are quite few. Comparison of subject performance by gender. Table 5 shows the performance by gender. The figures are in cumulative percentages at each level. We show that in English, at distinction 2 and above, the female candidates score are at 4.6%, while the males are at 5.1%. These figures, indicate a very encouraging performance by the inmates. Now, special needs candidates, the table 8 shows the performance of the special needs candidates, and we have indicated the category: the blind, the low vision, the deaf, the physically handicapped, the dyslexics, and others. I will explain what these others are. And we show them division 1, 2, 3, disaggregated by gender. The figure is a bit crowded, the table, but one can study and see that of all the SNE candidates, only 48 did not take the examination, and the majority of candidates obtained division 2. 1,713 of them out of the 3,328, and if you remove the 48. So this performance is above the national average. As the chair explained in his remarks, last year and the previous year, we had seen that the deaf candidates appeared to be particularly hard hit by their disability, and their results were not showing. But I am happy to note that although we have not shown, the chair's speech has indicated that last year, 2023, results up to 44, nearly 50% of them were ungraded. But this year, happily, that reduced to 23, and we hope that this is going to reduce further. A worrying development which the chairperson mentioned is that the board has noticed that in a few schools they are registering perfectly normal pupils to be recognized as special needs candidates. They are hiding these candidates under the category that we have indicated as others. Now, Mama, these others are pupils that suffer from health conditions such as asthma, epilepsy, or sickle cell anemia. And the board recognizes that such candidates may get attacks during the examination period and has put in place a facility where they can be given 45 minutes extra. However, they do not require any specialized assistance, like the blind would need braille and the deaf would need sign language interpreters and so on and so forth. These ones are given 45 minutes. The errant schools we have discovered, we found they have been selecting their good pupils. They register them as others in order that these candidates benefit for the extra time of 45 minutes. The chair has already mentioned the measures that the board intends to take to address this fraud. We have also given, we have a document that we have enclosed, the district performance. We have summarized the performance by district. Members will be able to see because they are enclosed. But we observe, Mama, that there are some districts that are persistently having very, very high percentages of candidates in the U category. You will see on page 1, Alebtong with 22.4. You see Bulambuli with 26.1. Butebo with 21.1. Dokolo with 20.1. And so on and so forth. Others, Chitgum with 21.3. Madiokolo with 24.1. Manafa with 22.8. Mama, these are very high percentages of candidates who are ungraded, and something definite should be done about it. Mama, I give brief comments on the work of the candidates. The analysis we carried out indicates that the candidates, including even those that are in the high ability categories, had difficulty in a number of learning areas. And the table we are given down here is just, we picked some of the more prominent ones. Mathematics, showing that our candidates have problems in solving word problems. Interpreting information on a Venn diagram, these are very important concepts. Geometry, the pie chart, fractions, all these are very important concepts. In English, we have candidates who have problems in drawing inferences from passages that are given and using this to answer questions not directly extracted. They have to infer. Or writing compositions with a correct structure. In science, they have problems, they showed problems in real life situations like the effects of drugs abuse on the family, some experimental activities like making an electromagnet, then applying the properties of images and so on and so forth. At social studies, those are the areas, important things like stating the importance of worship of God or Allah, the influence of the human activity on climate change, explaining the importance of the population census on different categories of citizens of our country, explaining the factors necessary to start income-generating activities. Mama, these are real-life situations, issues that seem to be abstract, probably showing the result of the kind of teaching that is detached from reality. Mama will comment on examination malpractice. The board successfully delivered examination question papers up to the sitting centers. I greatly appreciate the efforts of the education officials, that is the district inspectors of schools and the district education officers and the chief administrative officers at the local governments, for ensuring that the distribution of examination papers was done by credible officers, and therefore no cases of damaging question paper envelopes to access the contents was reported or detected throughout the country. I want to thank the district officials for this. However, the challenge now is going down to the school level, where we arrested 4 head teachers who, in collaboration with the invigilators, opened the envelopes in order to assist their candidates. And we have also observed that teachers were arrested assisting candidates on the chalkboard, and the main subject involved was mathematics. A total of 68 suspects have so far been arrested. We are still following them up. Not just about 3 days ago, we picked one who was in hiding, and we have assured them that we are going to follow them up.
The chairperson and members of the board of UNEB, the executive director, UNEB, and your team, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all and Happy New Year. I wish to first of all thank God for the gift of life for all of us here and throughout our country. By His grace, we have completed the 2024 school calendar activities that have culminated in the release of the 2024 primary living examination results today. As you all know, this is the first in a series of the end of cycle UNEB examination results, released annually in the basic and secondary level of education right here in Kampala. We praise God for the good weather during the examination days, since we know that we normally experience very heavy rainfall in November. The fact that God held back the rains so that our children could take the examinations without having to deal with the challenges of going to school in bad weather, it is testimony that our God is indeed a faithful God. Similarly, yes, I think He deserves a clap. Similarly, I recall that in 2023, UNEB informed us that the PLE was not interrupted by the weather in most parts of the country in 2023, despite the fact that it was a rainy season. This is not a mere coincidence, and I want to thank God again for that also. Now, with regard to UNEB's undertaking in 2024, we were all aware that the year would be quite unusual, as it would involve holding another UCE examination for those learners who had previously used the old lower secondary curriculum and were repeating UCE to see if they could improve on their previous performance. In addition to that, 2024 was the year that we conducted the first UCE examinations for the pioneer cohort of the revised lower secondary curriculum. So, I want to thank God and thank UNEB for a successful end of cycle examinations and the season, as evidenced by what we have heard from the statement of release of the 2024 PLE results. I must also say that I'm pleased with the theme. The theme, as you heard from Mr. Odong, in quotes, embracing security and holistic assessment of learners in a dynamic environment, unquote. That UNEB chose, that's the theme that UNEB chose for this examination season. The security of our examinations at all stages of development and administration is extremely important to guarantee results that are credible. It gives an assurance to us as a country and beyond that our certificates are a result of a valid and reliable process, hence enhancing their acceptability. This theme also underscores the holistic assessment of the candidate. Furthermore, as you have heard from the Executive Secretary's statement, for the first time, UNEB looked at whether the learners had attained mastery of knowledge and skills in the subjects they studied. Assessing for the mastery of knowledge and skills is a very commendable direction that UNEB has introduced to help us make meaning out of the aggregates and grades that we have been seeing our learners attain every time we get these results. Measuring mastery of knowledge and skills provides a better appreciation of the extent to which the learner has been able to gain in-depth knowledge in the given subject, how to apply the knowledge and analyze information in order to solve problems in environments that they are familiar with and in new situations as well. Therefore, I encourage UNEB to provide teachers with additional guidance and training so that they gain a better understanding and appreciation of the assessment of mastery of knowledge and skills, and how they can use this approach to tailor individual attention to learners who may be struggling in one or more areas. It is good to note now that our universal education policy has enabled more children to attend school, as seen from the significant increase in candidature and decrease in dropout or absenteeism. That is now at only 1.3%, as we heard from Mr. Odong. As you have heard in the statement of his release, this trend has been on a steady decline over the last 5 years, from a high of 1.8% in 2019. Nonetheless, I want to call upon head teachers and school management committees to pay attention to the problem of learner dropout, especially those that have registered for PLE. We must look into this issue and understand why a learner who has registered to sit PLE does not show up to sit these exams, even though it's on the decrease. But it's better we look out into this and know what makes these learners drop out at the last minute. So I'm pleased that during yesterday's briefing on the release of these results, the PS of the Ministry of Education and Sports committed to comprehensively look into the list of the local governments and schools from which the 1.3% dropped out, or the dropout occurred, so that we can at least know going forward what the problems are. I think all of us here and those listening to us through the various media channels appreciate that any school dropout is an undesirable state, and there are those issues that the government needs to address to eliminate school dropouts, but there are others that we may not know yet. However, let us all remember that each learner comes from a family. So we should also look into the ways of strengthening the family to play its role and obligations to ensure that every child who joins primary 1 not only completes primary 7, but also progresses to and completes lower secondary education at the very minimum. We need caring and empowering families to support learners by reinforcing the learning attained in school. Otherwise, the expectation that schools or the education system should shoulder the entire responsibility of learning and grooming children is not only unrealistic, but it's also wrong. And we must really talk to the parents and mobilize our communities to know the major role they have in the learning of their children. Now, coming back to today's results, I want to appreciate the work done by the Uganda Prison Service in offering education services to the inmates. This has been happening at Luzira, we know now, for some years, but UNEB has extended the opportunity to inmates at Mbarara prisons as well. This is commendable because the time an inmate spends in prison should also be used for education, which is an important aspect of the process of personal transformation and character correction, so to speak. I applaud the efforts UNEB, the Ministry of Education and Sports, as well as all the other stakeholders have put into increasing access to education opportunities for children with special education needs. Not only has the enrollment of this category of learners been increasing, but as you have heard, more of them are also sitting for the end of the cycle examination at primary 7 level. As was stated by UNEB, the 2024 PLE performance was overall better than the previous cycle, even though the proportion of learners that got Division 1 reduced. The encouragement I have for all those that pass PLE is that there are various opportunities for post-primary education in secondary schools as well as technical education. And to those learners whose PLE results have not met their expectations, I encourage you, I encourage your families to persevere and give PLE another try. As I stated before, last year, learners repeating P7 in UPE schools are still eligible to benefit from the capitation grant. So nonetheless, for parents who may want to consider a career in technical education for their children, I want to encourage and motivate them to aspire to complete at least O-level. As I said before, this is because lower secondary education is vital in getting learners grounded in basic knowledge of the natural sciences such as physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, and other earth sciences that are vital as foundational knowledge, especially in technical education. So please do not limit your children's aspirations to merely completing primary 7. I am glad now that the items that UNEB is using in the examination papers are addressing the use of knowledge and skills in solving our everyday problems, just as I mentioned earlier about the mastery of knowledge and skills. This is the thrust of our education, to produce citizens who have skills and competencies necessary to solve the human problems as a nation. Teachers must take heed of UNEB's findings from the work of candidates and go back to the basics of teaching holistically. I am pleased to hear that the local government officials worked closely with UNEB in the safe distribution of examination papers to sitting centers, with no incidents reported. However, it is unfortunate to learn that some school directors and their head teachers provided direct assistance to the candidates in the examination room. In such cases, we shall let the law take its course and thereafter subject those found guilty to the appropriate disciplinary process of the teaching service. It is unfortunate to hear incidences like that still happening in our schools. I express my sincere appreciation to all the government agencies, including the security forces, the judiciary, and other stakeholders that play a critical role in ensuring that the government delivers quality end of cycle examinations for their unwavering support and commitment. Thank you once again to UNEB, the board, and your secretariat under the leadership of Professor Obua and Mr. Odong for presiding over a successful 2024 PLE examination season. May God bless you, really bless you. Allow me now to thank the parents and guardians that supported all our children whose results are being released today. Thank you for all the sacrifices you make for the education and well-being of your children. My gratitude also goes to the teachers and staff in all our schools who do a great job in the learning experience of these young people. Well done to all of you. Lastly, I call upon the general public and especially families that have children that shall be reporting back to school for the new academic year to take the necessary precautions against the monkeypox disease. All of us have heard about that. The Ministry of Education and Sports, working together with the Ministry of Health, issued guidelines to schools on how to manage and respond to the mpox outbreak. Therefore, I urge all heads of the education institutions of learning to keenly follow the periodic updates released by the Ministry of Health and guide your staff, learners, and parents appropriately. Finally, I'd like to inform the public that the selection exercise for Senior 1 will take place on the 30th and 31st of January 2025. The Ministry of Education and Sports will communicate the further details. We expect first term for the Senior 1 cohort of 2025 to commence on the 17th of February 2025.